I'm joined from Melbourne by Dr. Aurelien Mondon, an honorary fellow at Trobe University who's been following the French elections closely. Dr. Mondon, thank you very much for joining us tonight. This result is obviously humiliating for Nicolas Sarkozy, but is it too early to write him off just yet?
That's a very interesting question. Most of the French media said that yes, Nicolas Sarkozy will lose the election. I would say with my research that, looking at my research, that it might be too early, I think, to write him off. So far, opinion polls are saying that he should be losing by 56% against 44, or 54-46, so quite a big defeat if that is confirmed. But, I mean, there is quite a big pool of voters that is for the taking, and most notably, of course, the Front National's voters, but also the centre voters from François Bayrou. So I think it is a bit early to write him off completely.
But he certainly has got a fight on his hands if he's going to hold on to his job.
Oh, certainly. And I mean, I think the French people have expressed through their first round vote that they might have had enough. So, I mean, yeah, there's quite a likelihood that he will not be re-elected.
Do you see the first round of voting as more of a public vote of support for Hollande, or is it more of a punishment against Sarkozy?
I think it's very much a punishment. I don't think Hollande has had such a very good campaign, something that would have, convinced the people of France. I think maybe Mélenchon, the front gauche candidate, the left front candidate, had a campaign that convinced people and that, brought some passion to politics. Most polls were saying that people in France were actually not very interested in the campaign. So I don't think it was actually much of a plebiscite for Hollande. Instead, it was more just people being fed up. In a way, it reminded me of a campaign in Australia when Kevin Rudd was elected in 2007, maybe. Not necessarily a passion, but just getting rid of Howard. Here, it's really getting rid of Sarkozy.
What about the strong showing of Marine Le Pen? And how is that likely to dictate events in the coming weeks? And also, what sort of impact is it likely to have on the second vote?
Well, it's certainly very worrying. Nicolas Sarkozy had led a campaign that was aimed at the far-right electorate, and he clearly failed. I mean, this campaign worked in 2007, and he actually took a big chunk of the vote of the Front National, and Jean-Marie Le Pen, Marine Le Pen's father, ended up with only 10% of the vote. When I say only, it's still quite impressive, but it's not the 18% that Marine Le Pen succeeded to get this time around. And what is even more worrying is that the abstention was quite low, only 20%. So it is a very, very worrying result. And the impact might not be felt in the next 2 weeks, but it certainly will be felt during the mandate of the next president, because there will be this pressure to kind of get rid of this support from Marine Le Pen. If the next president fails to gather support, then it will be tough times in France, I think.
What do you think is going to happen in the next couple of weeks? Do you think Nicolas Sarkozy will be trying to court the far right even more? Or is that sort of shown that that's already failed? Who's going to get the votes of the right? That's what I'm trying to work out.
Yes, it's very tricky. I mean, Nicolas Sarkozy will have to kind of do almost an impossible stretch. He will have to get the vote from the extreme right, which is likely to go to him by about 60%. But he will also have to try and get the vote from the centre. So, I mean, it's an almost impossible stretch. Like his strategy was to get the vote from the far right in the first round and then turn to the centre in the second round. But, between the first and second round, but it's quite impossible now to do it. So I don't know how he will do it. And I think his strategy is to have these three debates with François Hollande and have debates on different topics. One on, security, possibly, then another one more on economics, where he could actually appeal to the centre electorate. Personally, I think it's going to be very hard for him to actually appeal to both the centre and the extreme right electorate, for sure.
Because Hollande has said he doesn't want to have three debates, he just wants the one.
Well, I think Hollande has seen through Sarkozy's strategy, and I think Hollande should not go with three debates, for sure. What
has been Sarkozy's biggest downfall? Why is he so unpopular?
I think it was his populist campaign in 2007 that has disappointed many, many people in France. He ran a campaign in 2007 pretending that he would create a rupture between him and previous politicians, between him and mainstream politicians, between him and the elite. it was basically a lie. Sarkozy was part of the elite. He had been part of governments for 15 years. It was not a rupture in anything. And all the promises that he made to the French people, telling them that he was close to them, telling them that he was part of the people, he was a man of the people, the voice of the people. Well, the first night he got elected, he went to a very expensive nightclub. Second day, he left on a yacht cruise. He was called President Bling Bling. It was just disappointment after disappointment. And I think courting the extreme right voters throughout his presidency did not pay because he did not put in practice what he was saying. And so he just fueled the racist sentiment in France without appeasing it by, putting on real laws or putting it in practice, really.
And Hollande has also had his share of critics as well during this campaign, some accusing him of being bland and boring, a sort of Mr. Normal sort of option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. He was actually called Mr. Marshmallow, I think, for a while, to say how malleable he was and how ordinary in a way. As I said, I don't think François Hollande managed to kind of, get the French people passionate about politics. And I think it will be very hard for him because he will have to find this balance between the strong left-wing movement that has arose in France with the left front, and also he will have to contain the extreme right. So it will be a very tough fight on his hand if he gets elected.
Do you think either of them can appease the French people? Can either of them give what the French people want?
I would say it's unlikely at the moment. I think the French electorate is very divided as it stands. I think either will manage to appease the broad centre electorate, but I do not see them appeasing either the extreme left or the extreme right as it stands. The other problem, of course, is appeasing their European colleagues, which is going to be another tough one.
Dr. Aurelien Mondon from Trobe University, thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you.